You are listening to the Boss Experience Podcast, a podcast with conversations about business growth, self-development, and maintaining a mindset to achieve business success. My name is Michelle Davis, and I am a business strategist and coach, and I am your host. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Boss Experience Podcast. My name is Michelle Davis, and I'm your host. And just a reminder, new episodes of the Boss Experience Podcast return in January 2023. So I am sharing a bonus episode with you today of an interview from The Troy Show with Troy Hippolito. And I'm sharing it in 3 parts because it's a rather long interview. And in this episode, we're talking about selling versus relationships and some things you want to consider when packaging and pricing your coaching, consulting, or other professional services. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Selling versus relationship. Another major issue is you think you're selling products and services. That's not the case.
You remember I gave you the example? Like, I thought my role was to just post what I sell. And I see this all the time, whether it's real estate agents, everyone, they just post what they're selling. And you have to keep in mind that people are not always in the market for what you're selling. And that is why you want to focus on the relationships with people, build relationships. Stop trying to, hop in people's DMs and sell them stuff. They're not.
You want to plant an idea of who you are and why you are for the long term.
Correct.
So when it comes up, they naturally gravitate towards you. So you have this long timeline of whatever, say a year, 2 years, whatever it is. And the chance of them actually needing your services is pretty low. But the chance of them taking their services on the exact time when you DM him is even lower. And it's extremely annoying, right?
And that's why it's so important to have, clear messaging, thinking about your target audience, speak about their pain points. And deliver value, and they'll remember you. The other thing I want to say in regards to selling versus relationship is, when we're thinking about, our services, we just think of it in terms of products, and we need to be developing offers because anyone can sell a product or a service.
You have product, then you have an offer. What's the difference?
When you think about a product or a service, like everything that we do, millions of other people do it. Right. So we're not selling anything unique. What makes us unique is our offer and what we have to bring to the table, how we deliver that service. Remember earlier I was talking about my programs, and I like to have that implementation period with my clients. I don't want to build out a 6-month program or help someone build out a 3-month program, 6-month program, 12-month program and say, okay, good luck with implementing it.
Yeah. Give them a high five.
Right. So I want to help them create an offer because we're not just selling products and services. We're selling, transformations. But in terms of the selling versus relationship, when you create your programs, you want to make sure you're creating offers and not just like having this individual product. And you want to showcase your offer, and you want to make sure you're building relationships. And then I want to mention pricing. So pricing.
A lot of us have the wrong pricing.
Yes.
So tell us the right pricing.
The right pricing really depends on what you're offering. And so a lot of what you are going to do is sit down and think about what value am I delivering this person? What am I offering them? What value will they get in the end? And that determines pricing. Everybody wants high value programs, right? Everybody wants to charge these high ticket prices, but you have to make sure you're delivering enough value in your offer.
I will tell you something where I made a mistake. And I was listening to advice, and it works for some people, and certain advice doesn't work for others or other programs, right? So it's not necessarily bad advice. It's just it doesn't work within my world, right? And so I had my pilot program. I had it for $350 a month, 1 meeting a month, this and that, and it looks great for like some email resolution coaching, not for LinkedIn coaching, because it's a different type of involvement. And I was getting all these people, and they would quit. About 25% of them would quit after a month or two because they just wouldn't do the work. And I realized I was pricing it wrong because they didn't see the value, and they're the wrong type of type of client. And I said, okay, well, why don't I just charge like $1,800 because someone else is charging $5,000 for a 12-week program. I said, that seems to be more appropriate. And it's not once a month. It's 6 weeks. It's a lot more condensed. And if you're paying a couple $1,000s for a program, you're just not going to say, I don't feel like doing it. You invested the money to do it. And so you're bringing in the people that are actually going to do what they need to do in order to get it done. Unless you just got like money like that and you just, So I think that is one major issue. I was not charging, and that's not $1,800, still not a lot, but I think it's good for introductory and to get their attention for a amount of time.
And there's a couple of things that can determine pricing. I mean, you look at your offer, and don't be afraid to maybe not come out the gate, especially with a new program. You may want to have a beta run of your program, tweak it, work with some clients, get their feedback so that you can better improve your program, because you don't know how well your clients are going to receive your program. You don't know the end result until you actually deliver it. And
well, you can get some indicators.
You can get some indicators.
Like I have a lot of clients that have some similar work, and so I kind of know what works better in general, in certain areas.
Right. But for new people, they don't know. They don't have that knowledge yet. So if you're developing your first high value program, you're not going to know what works yet.
Yeah, I had some feedback that says, "Why is it pilot program? Are you going to teach me how to fly?" I said, "Yeah, this is the wrong customer for this one."
Well, yeah, and you don't, the messaging. Again, the messaging. Now it's a beta program, but you don't need to necessarily share with your clients. It's that you're doing a beta program. And so let's say maybe your end game is to charge $5,000 for that program. Yeah. So maybe the first run you maybe charge, $2,000, $3,000, and work out the kinks first in your program, because your clients are going to tell you, you know what, I really wish that I had this element in this program, or I don't think we had enough of this. And it's up to you to decide what feedback you're going to incorporate into your
because you can't do everything. You can't do everything. You
Correct.
have to figure out what is the core needs in order for that particular type of client to be most successful.
Yeah, and a lot
has to have and like to have.
Right. And a lot of times the transformation or what you're expecting from your clients, maybe you didn't allow enough time for it, or maybe you need to dial it back a little bit and think of an interim point, that you can achieve with the client in the period of time of your program. So you have to think there's a lot that goes into pricing. So you really have to kind of sit and think about what is it you're offering. It can't just be, I want $2,000, so that's what I'm going to charge. You have to look at the value of your offer. You have to look at, what are you actually helping them do? And, there's other factors as well.
You brought up an interesting point that a lot of people may not be able to do what you're asking. Maybe what you are asking is simple to you, but extremely complicated because it's a brand new thing to them.
If developing a coaching program or a consulting program, maybe there's this gap in knowledge that you need to fill that with information. You need to make sure you cover that. Why aren't they getting the results that you want them to get?
Sometimes you're requiring people to connect dots that they're just not used to thinking that way, Right. And that comes up to well, is this the right client for that type of program? Because I tend to want to work with people that will challenge me, and push back, but also implement. And I find the people who actually implement what you're asking, they're a little more on the rare side, because some people just want stuff done, but they don't want to pay for it. That's a done for you service. That's different than I would teach you how to do it and then help you do it.
Yeah, you have that group too. So you have to know what the needs are, and this kind of goes back to your offer, creating that offer. Not every am I creating done for you versus something else like group coaching, or there's all different ways to deliver results to your clients. You have to figure out what is it that you want to do.
Right.
So that's why I said there's so many different factors. And so generic advice doesn't work for how you need to price your program. You need to sit down. You need to look at your program. You need to look at your how you're delivering results. So let's talk about strategy. So your strategy is really being intentional about what you're doing in your business. It's not like working on a fly. So whether it's marketing, whether it's, program development, whatever it is, you have to have a strategy. And so specifically around, goal setting and planning. So when I first, started my business, and despite all of my education and knowledge, I have a master's degree, and you could easily think you know everything, when you ever met the overly educated. So, I actually, when, making the transition, I had a lot of knowledge in terms of I'm the expert of the program I want to develop and create. But in terms of putting it together, not so much. I need to plan out what I need to do, and I need to set goals for myself. And the only way you can accomplish your goals is if you actually set them. If you don't set goals, you don't establish them, what is it that you're expecting to get? So the same is the case for marketing. What are your goals when you go on the platform? What is your goal if you're coming on to LinkedIn?
I think a lot of it, including myself, like when I'm posting stuff, I just want to provide value. And maybe I need to slow down and figure out, well, what are my goals with it? I do have a day-to-day process where I have a general goal, but maybe writing those goals out would make it more specific, Another thing too is achieving those goals. I find that things work really well in 13 weeks, like there's 3 months basically. And in 3 months is a small enough time to set some goals and to actually achieve some goals versus a 1-year goal or a 5-year goal. Because what happens usually after 3 months, you said, oh, I won't veer off those goals too much, but now I can make a shift here or make a shift there. And that seems to be working really well. But you had a great point. Everything you do, not just do because of the daily process. Of course, you want to do A, B, and C to convert some of those individuals to better conversations. But what specific goals should I obtain? What do I really want to do to make those happen? It's a great point.
Think about, what are my client numbers? How many clients do I want to serve? In this program or annually? How much revenue am I trying to make? And if you don't think about these things, you're going to keep missing your mark. You're going to glide right past it. Same thing with KPIs. How do I know when I'm doing, well? What numbers do I need to see in my business? What numbers should I even be monitoring?
I will tell you a little bit about my strategy just on the LinkedIn portion. It's like figuring out where my communication channel paths are. Just, it's LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is huge. So how you communicate can be different channels. And so I have, of course, my show here, right? I serve a larger audience, and I'll end up getting X amount of views on that and actually providing value to that audience. I consider that networking. So I have group networking, other people show your podcast, in-person networking, all that stuff is group type of networking, right? Then I have my actual post, and then I have my conversations on my direct messages, and I have overlap strategies, maybe from a post, a conversation to a DM if appropriate. And so having these strategies are really important, because if that, you might as well just run out in the street and throw your hands up and everyone like me, come on, get to know me. I want to be your friend, and be a weirdo.
And I think when you think about it, I think people aren't establishing a strategy because they don't know how.
Right.
They don't know how to sit down and really map out these things. And that's when, having a coach comes in. And, and you may want to think about, what are your goals for your business as well. And that's part of the planning part, because I had sticker shock, and I had a lot of shocks when I, moved from my career into business.
Oh, you're referring to like the cost of doing business. The cost of marketing, the cost
not
of
just that, but
getting help
the
to
how,
do stuff.
the different elements, the fact that, how important systems are.
Because when you had a job, a lot of these things were just built into the business.
Right.
So you're just following the process they give you versus creating a process that will help you in your own business.
Right. And I always say it's one thing to walk into something. It's another thing to develop. It's a whole different mindset. And so the planning helps you develop, because, when I first made the transition, I underestimated how much it would cost, because a lot of what does that is the information that you consume online. You're consuming, and you're not taking the time to think. So,
and also people want to work with you because there's a differentiation between you and this other person that does something similar to you. And you have to have that it factor. You have to have that thing that, like, you know what, this is cool, but I'm going to go with Michelle because I like, and sometimes it's almost untangible, that intangible thing. But I believe Michelle has helped X amount of people, and I'm sure that she can help me figure out some of these things, because during this conversation, you've told me stuff that I kind of know, but by hearing it out of your mouth, I said, you know what, that should be a priority, and so this is information that's really valuable.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Boss Experience podcast. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope you came away from that episode with a lot to reflect on. And just as a reminder, you can always visit CEOBlueprintAcademy.com. That's CEOBlueprintAcademy.com to see how you can work with me. So with that being said, that concludes this episode. Thank you once again for tuning in. And I can't wait for you to tune in to another episode of the Boss Experience podcast. New episodes of the Boss Experience podcast return in January 2023. Take care and be well. Hey, it's Michelle here from the Boss Experience podcast. Are you a coach, consultant, or other professional service provider trying to figure out where your next client lead is coming from? There are professionals on LinkedIn closing more deals than any other platform. You want to know why? People log on to Facebook and Instagram for social purposes. However, people come to LinkedIn for the sole purpose of networking with other professionals and doing business. When you implement a LinkedIn strategy correctly, it makes the difference between scrambling for your next client and having leads flowing into your business. So my friend, Troy Hippolito, just so happens to be a LinkedIn expert. And when you work with Troy, you get the exact formula to not just get a lead, but actual clients. So if you need a dedicated done-for-you service or just the blueprint to be effective on LinkedIn, Troy's got you covered. Just visit CEOGamePlan.com to schedule a free, no-obligation call with Troy to see how you can leverage LinkedIn for your business. Now back to the episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Boss Experience podcast. Don't forget to leave a review for this episode and tune in next time.